Hello, welcome to Shelby Radio. I am Shelby Carino, and this is episode number 732. And today's topic is we're piggying back off of last week where we're talking about our energy returning to itself. So today I want to discuss when your energy has been everywhere but yourself. And I know so many people are feeling this right now. The year of the horse is in full swing, and this is the time where if you have a belief system in the word karma, or you don't have a belief system in the, in the word karma, it's really energy returning to its original source of creation. So this is why I always say, you know what? You really just want to be a good person and do good things. Because if you go out there and fuck people over, you probably fucked people over in energies that weren't even yours. And if that other person whose energy it was actually of the light and did things, and you still fucked people over using that light energy, well, when the light calls for its own return of that energy, then you're probably going to get fucked over in a big way because you just weren't a nice person. So that's where I tell people ethics in this energetic process is so important. And if you have not gotten the ethics yet, I highly suggest you do my ethics course in my curriculum because it's a game changer and it will save a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. But I digress, but not. Okay, so last week we talked about that idea of returning to your own energy. Okay, that is happening on a universal scale either way. Okay, this is not something like you have to go, I'm calling my energy back to me. No, we're in that stage of this massive spiritual regathering of self, okay? And yet here it is, after that conversation, it brought up things that I feel that many people are experiencing, because when you really begin having that energy show back up into your system, things happen, okay? Things are going to shift around in your life. And there's these seasons in our life when our energy ends up everywhere else except inside of ourselves. And I briefly talked about that last week, okay? I call that scattering your energy. So responsibilities are affected, relationships are affected, expectations of life happen. The pace of the world begins coming down on you. And a lot of times we don't even realize how far our energy has traveled out until one day something happens inside of ourselves and we say to ourselves, where am I? I need to come back to myself. Who am I anymore? Okay. And this is happening a lot right now because there is so much spiritual movement on the planet that is happening from a higher level of consciousness that we may not even humanly understand, that is beyond our ability to control. So the only thing that we have going for us is awareness. What is the awareness of now that is happening in our lives? So I want to talk about basically recognizing when your energy is scattered. There are signs that all of us experience, okay, when your energy has gotten too thin because you've spread it way too much, okay? And some of those signs are what a lot of people are feeling right now, feeling emotionally exhausted. Raise your hand if that is you. That means your energy is somewhere else because you're emotionally exhausted. You could be it's somewhere else and you're getting prepared to pull it back in, or it's somewhere else and you haven't even triggered yet the pulling back in process. But those signs are that feeling emotionally exhausted, constantly reacting to situations. That's happening a lot right now with people. Always thinking about other people's needs before your own. Losing connection with your own inner voice. Okay? Because sometimes we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. We're showing up for people, we're handling responsibilities, we're moving through life. But internally, something inside of ourselves is feeling off. And what's really happening in those moments of feeling off is that our energy has been pulled outward in too many different directions. And why this happens is because when we begin losing connection with our own energy because we've scattered it too thin outside of ourselves, and we know this is a very human experience that has to happen, but yet we're not really taught how to protect that energy. And it's not even that we have to protect the energy. It's been that we've needed to go through a personal development process on an energetic level to clear through generational installments of shit that we've needed to harmonize in order to basically become a stronger spiritual energy. And therefore, protection doesn't even need to happen because your spiritual energy is now strong. And that in and of itself is the boundary to anything less than that light energy that may be coming at you. But because many of us were not taught how to recognize any of this, especially when our own energy has been everywhere else but ourselves, not even knowing how to pull it back in, then again, that's why my curriculum is so important because it's the foundational piece to be able to remove the noise that is happening around you that is keeping you from pulling in those scattered parts of yourself. So you no longer lose connection anymore to your energy. But because there is so much pressure out here culturally that we always have to be busy and we always have to be productive, well, that takes us away from being quiet, from allowing ourselves to be and get bored with ourselves. Or when we get into these relationships that require constant attention, whether it's with your significant other, whether it's with your children, whether it's with other people's children, whether it's with friends, whether it's with coworkers, if you're in these dynamics where there's so much attention paid to that, well, that's just another space where your energy is scattered. So that's why I talked so much about what was going on when Joe's mother was in a transitory space of 2 years as she was working to leave her human body and ascend all the way into the energetic body spiritually, is how much it took for Joe and I to hold that space because there was so much energy that was expanding and traveling and scattering, and so many other people were involved in that process. And then, pulling, that vacuum of energy back in, it's really exhausting. Okay. And it's because when we run an emotional responsibility for other people, which, raise my hand, I have been so guilty about that my entire life because I'm a Pisces. So I have always mapped onto other people this thing in me that I had to be emotionally responsible for other people's feelings. I mean, talk about being egotistical and narcissistic and thinking that that I was having to be responsible for them emotionally. I mean, my gosh. Okay. But I realized it was a form of protection for me because I didn't trust other people's emotions if those emotions were to come at me, because I emotionally hadn't reached a level of quotient in order to not be affected by the aggressive, codependent, whatever emotional energies there are that others run. So I had to really move myself emotionally. That's why, I talk about all the things that I talk about, in order for me to have prepared those boundaries for myself. Okay. And it's a process. It's a very long process. All right. But anyway, we also lose connection to our energy as well because of just that outside noise, the TV, the social media. There's just so much noise that we're taking in daily, even when we're quiet and you hear an airplane overhead. That's noise. So there's just a lot of noise, and we have to learn that we can be in the noise, but yet we can be in our stillness. We can be in our silence. So we no longer have to constantly feel like our energy is anywhere else but home within us. So we have to do these societal changes, which are happening, okay? And then we have to do those changes within our own personal environment, whether it's forcing ourselves to take a vacation or slow down or learn meditation or quit our job that pulls us in too many directions. We have to learn how to slow down. And as we do that, society, just like when COVID happened in 2020, nobody was really prepared for that, even if we were prepared for it, because it shut down the whole world. And I mean the whole world. And that was like that spiritual awakening globally outside of us that is saying, okay, people, if you don't know how to slow down on your own, then this over here is going to happen in order to put the brakes on, in order to get everybody to focus and pay attention. And I am telling you, there has to be something out here in the force field that is brewing, not maybe like what happened in 2020, but there is something going on that I really do believe is going to put a stop to this chaos that is moving right now in the planet. And I know that you can feel it anytime you're in your car and you're driving, or you feel like you're floating between different dimensions of time, and people just are not aware of what's going on. There is going to be something that is going to put the brakes on to this energy that is moving very, very fast. And it's going to awaken another aspect of humanity. I really do feel this is coming very quickly, and possibly this month, whatever that may mean. Okay. It's going to happen, and people are going to have to start slowing down and looking around and having what is important. What I'm talking about next is the moment of awareness. This is the turning point for humanity, is the turning point of when we all come together and realize something needs to change. This is bigger than myself individually, speaking third person, right? But this is bigger than us, right? Something needs to change. Then that happens. When that happens, it allows individuals to change. So that's why you may be seeing in your life right now burnout, people just really becoming emotionally overwhelmed, people just begging for a moment in time to have a quiet inner realization of themselves because they're feeling disconnected from themselves. And that's when there's that quiet moment when you have that something inside of you shifts and you begin asking questions like I have done so many times on my journey. Why am I feeling so tired? Why does everything feel so heavy? Why do I feel disconnected from myself? And that isn't necessarily the moment where you're breaking down. It's actually where you're beginning the stage of returning something to yourself. Very powerful. So when you begin to start reclaiming your parts, your energy, and you're slowing down a little bit, you're saying no to things that no longer serve you. You're creating this space to listen to yourself. You're noticing where your energy may be projected and where it's going. Those are beginning stages of that return to self. And in the Fire Horse year of 2026, if you're not aligned in the awareness and the work, you may pull that in a little bit more dramatically, okay? But if you've been doing a lot of work and you can slow down and pace yourself and really stay aware, the word for this podcast episode is awareness, then you'll notice more of those subtle shifts, like that gentle whisper in your ear or a feather that kind of brushes over your skin. Those are the subtle awarenesses that things are coming back to you. And you may say to yourself in those moments when those awarenesses happen that returning to yourself doesn't mean you're shutting the world out. It's really the opposite, okay? You're remembering that, oh, here's a part of me energetically that's mine. And that belongs to me. That happened with me first before I gave it to Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Sally Sue, and Shaniqua, whatever. Like oh, that there we go. That's me. And that's when those symbolisms come in. The synchronicities start showing up. And it really depends on how you've lived your life over, honestly, the last 9 to 10 years. But really your whole entire life. Because if you've been a really shitty human, you're probably going to have a real shitty, dramatic kickback to yourself. Okay? But if you're listening to this podcast episode, I highly doubt any of you are shitty humans because you probably wouldn't even be attracted to my podcast to begin with. Okay? So this is like this little mini theme that I'm talking about for the rest of March before we really begin this new season in April, okay? So really look at where in your life your energy was everywhere except inside of you. Who were the people? Who were the jobs? Who were the random encounters that you've had? The experiences. Where have you put that energy? Where might you now be ready to pull in certain aspects of that energy? Because like I said last week, sometimes the most powerful shift that we can make is never becoming someone new. It's remembering who we already are. But we become new again because of the awareness that we've gained, that we scattered so much of ourselves out there due to an insecurity in our own energy system because we were never taught how to do energy work. We were only taught how to mentally make something happen. And now we're having to learn how to energetically align with the awarenesses that we have in our mind and kinesthetically unconsciously, subconsciously align that into our world, or we'll just keep repeating the same loop of that energy. So again, it's so important to look at my curriculum when you're ready and when you feel called to it on shelbycarino.com under courses page, because that is the foundational step to bring a security into your vibration as you begin calling these parts home to you. Okay? So, I just came out of the gate with that one, and I am going to leave that there. But on one quick note, if you head over to my Instagram page at Shelby Carino, just my name, first and last name, follow me on Instagram, because I have so many good resources for you over there. And that is where also I am doing a daily segment called, Waking Up Together, where I'm coming on Instagram every day in the morning when I'm waking up. You cannot get any more raw, real, authentic, and how I am going to be showing up for you and what the energy is for the day, and just having a place where all of us can come together and connect. Now, it's not live. Of course, you'll watch my video feed for that morning. But you can comment, share it. You can do all the things. And that's where we can really stay in touch, because the podcast, of course, is just you hearing me and me not being able to hear you. So at least on Instagram, I can connect in with your comments and all of the things. So at Shelby Carino, and you'll see all those posts on there. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it there. And these are now short episodes, quick little insights, because we're moving into way bigger fish to fry. And you're going to be able to find those pieces of information on other platforms that I have. So until next week, take care, and I'll talk to you then.